The Perfectory Podcast, Mastering the Mind and Market. Hosted by Manny, we explore what it takes to succeed, both in business and within yourself. From strategy and business growth to mindset and resilience, we provide the tools to lead with clarity, confidence, and wisdom. Welcome to the Perfectory Podcast, Mastering the Mind and Market. My name is Manny and I'm your host. On the Perfectory Podcast, we give you tools and insights in order for you to crush it in business, crush it in life by looking at the world in a different perspective. We use lots of Stoic philosophy tools, but we also use a lot of science and a blend of my personal experience. We're bringing some conversations with entrepreneurs and business leaders who have been there, done that as well. And we are creating this small series called Stillness Series, in which we are exploring the power of stillness in order to prepare and propel you in business and in life. And in the first and second part, we talked about stillness as a concept. The second one, we talked about nature as a catalyst. And on today's podcast, we're talking about free flow thoughts and strategic breakthroughs. This idea of free flow thoughts is something that I've been exploring for a while. Now, the brain has two ways of thinking, and you're actually familiar with both of them. Perhaps you didn't know they had a name. The first of which is focus thinking. You're focused on something, you're writing something, you're on your phone, in a conversation, and you're directing all of your attention towards a particular subject. The other one is diffuse thinking. That means you're driving to work and an idea pops in your head, or you're in the shower, or you're sort of watching a movie but not really watching it. You're sort of out there and then something pops in your mind. This diffuse thinking has a lot of power. And that is something that I'm going to talk about today in today's podcast, is the idea of the power of this free flow thinking, which is side by side with diffuse thinking. Basically, it's the same thing. The only thing that's different between the diffuse thinking and the free flow thinking that I just mentioned is free flow thinking. I'm going to invite you to create time for this sort of thing. A lot of my ideas that I've had, breakthrough ideas, have happened in the space between activities, or I'm driving to work, or I'm maybe taking a hike, or I'm just sitting there and waiting for my flight to land or something. And these moments of stillness, whether even if it's in the middle of a crowd, these moments between activities is when this free flow thinking sort of takes place. What I'm inviting you to do is actually create space to do this in your own practice, whether that's in the morning, you're getting ready, you brush your teeth, you shower, whatever. If you create 5 or 10 minutes to just sit there on your couch, somewhat awkwardly, I may add, because you're not doing anything. And I mentioned earlier, our brains are so accustomed to being on our phones, to being completely bombarded and your attention being sucked out of you all the time, that if you are able to sit for 5 minutes, sit on your hands even if you have to, and just sit there and let your thoughts unfold. Now, what I've done is for actually more than half my life, I've kept these moleskin books around me, and I've got a whole box of them in the other room there. And the idea with these books is they're my central note-taking resource. I take notes on them. They're like a journal of sorts. And oftentimes, if I'm struggling with something and I don't know how to resolve it, one of the tools I use is just to sit there in quiet, like I mentioned, for 5 or 10 minutes, have my moleskin notebook next to me, breathe and wait. And it isn't always hurrah kind of moments where you're hearing a marching band coming down with the idea, but it's little tiny moments of almost like flakes of gold if you're gold painting. Little flakes of gold of thoughts and ideas that you can jot down that then will coalesce and build upon each other over time to give you that breakthrough technology, breakthrough idea, breakthrough conversation, whatever you're actually struggling with. And this stillness is so difficult. This cultivation of your breakthrough or your free flow thought is so difficult. It sounds easy. It sounds awkward. It sounds weird just sitting there thinking about nothing. But I'm telling you, there's power to it. Stillness within ourselves is always hard to grasp because of this. Our mind is everywhere. And I didn't go too much into meditation in this particular series. I might mention it in the closing thoughts, but meditation is also a very powerful tool. I'm not going to purport to be an expert in meditation. You can go to YouTube and find a multitude of people that'll walk you through meditation. There's Insight Timer and other apps out there you can leverage for meditation. But meditation as a tool of stillness is also very powerful. They're actually one and the same, but in almost like different flavors. Let me give you some context from the science side of why these free flow breakthrough concepts are so important, this diffuse mode thinking. This is from the Harvard Business Review, which incidentally, as a business leader, as somebody who is a entrepreneur looking to make big moves in life, a subscription to Harvard Business Review is invaluable. I've had one for a decade. Very powerful, actually more than that. Very powerful journal. And it's not that expensive if you think about the nuggets and actually the not even flakes of gold, the nuggets of ideas you get from the Harvard Business Review. Highly suggest you do it. The online version's good, but I prefer the old school magazine that I can flip through and make notes on if I have to or share. Something just to keep in mind. But back to the idea. Harvard Business Review and psychologist Jonathan Schooler said that mind wandering or free flow thought can lead to insight-based problem solving. It's when the brain subconsciously connects unrelated ideas, often while at rest. So that is a very powerful idea. And the takeaway is that free flow time is not wasted time. That's when your brain incubates these high potential ideas. It's when your subconscious, we mentioned this before, your conscious is this tiny thing on top, and the subconscious is this giant iceberg underneath our awareness. That has a lot of power. There's like an engine down there that's humming and churning and all that. By being able to be still, by being able to cultivate free flow thinking, diffuse thinking, you're harnessing the power of that engine below the surface so that the ideas will bubble up and give you some breakthroughs. I always say, and I've said for a long time, that business, as in life, is a full contact sport. In business, you're not pussyfooting around and you're not waiting for this, waiting for that, waiting for market conditions to be perfect. If you want to be successful in business, you are hard driving, you are out there, you're getting hurt, you're putting your name out, you're getting bruised, and you're creating a lot of ruckus, a lot of momentum, and there's power to that. Stillness is the rest. Stillness is the breath. Stillness is the power that you need so that when you're actually you're sparring, if you will, when you're sparring in business, the idea of free flow thinking, of diffuse thinking is where will you place that next punch? Massive power in being able to just calm your brain for a minute, let these ideas percolate so that you can make these decisions and keep on moving. My grandmother, who's a huge mentor of mine, is like, her mantra is, keep moving, mijo. If you are down, if you're having issues, keep moving. I completely agree with my nana, of course, but I'd also say that in addition to keep moving, you also need to rest. You need to rest so that you keep on moving. There's a difference between just being lazy and not moving at all, and that's not exactly stillness. What I mean by stillness, what I've meant here in this series so far, is creating this space within your own head so that you're able to garner that energy, the ideas, the momentum, and make the right moves in your business and in life. Life also, I always say, is not, if you were to want to make impact, you play chess, not checkers. That's how it is. And there's another thing I'll share with you regarding some science. This is mindfulness and meditation drive performance and resilience. The source is Google's Search Inside Yourself program, SAP, Aetna case studies. And the results are that Aetna, which is a massive insurance company, reported saving $3,000 per employee per year in productivity gains from mindfulness programs. And SAP saw a 200% ROI from investing in mindfulness training. The takeaway is inner stillness is an economic multiplier of success and prosperity. Cultivate however you can this idea of stillness. Look at ways that you can do this and apply it to your own life. And in the next mini podcast here, we're going to look at specific things you can do as practical tools for reconnecting with yourself, with your stillness. And I'll give you a couple more stories here before we conclude today's podcast. The idea of free flow thinking can also be harnessed by several people together. This is what I mean. If you are challenged with a big issue, if you have a team of people that are challenged with a big issue, and you don't have an answer, you don't know if you're going to go this direction or that direction, and if you give your team members the framework of this is what we're dealing with, I want you to go home and sit down for 10, 15 minutes, or maybe even before you go home in your office. Spend time really thinking about it, not on your phone, not on your computer, just think about it and write down any ideas you might have. And let's come back tomorrow and share them. What you understand is if you ask your team to do this, I would say about 20% of them will have nothing to share. They'll basically have, well, I did it. I didn't really have anything to share. And you'll have about 60% of them that will come back with cool ideas that have some really interesting implications. And then the final 20% will come back with gold. And that gold collected together will give you a good push towards the answer that you're looking for. I've used a similar version of this in my team when I was running my company several years ago. Not my current one, not the current one I'm running, but another one. And the idea is that we were contemplating buying a building. And I still struggle with this. I tend to be somewhat impulsive. And I tend to be I see something I want and I just latch on. And for better or for worse, that's been my success story. But I always, and at least now as I'm advancing in my career, as I'm advancing with building a more strategic team around me, and through that process, I asked my team to do something similar. Go back to your office and let's come back tomorrow. Give me some of the top 5 reasons why we should and top reasons why we should not move into this building. And I put a framework together, meaning I wanted them to go back to their places, cultivate this, come back. When we came back, we had this massive list. A lot of things were similar of why we wanted to get the building. We needed more space. We didn't have enough power in our shop at the time. There's a lot of reasons that were very practical. But what was interesting were the reasons why we shouldn't. And cultivating the space and that free flow thinking led to some interesting concepts that ended up changing the way we did things in the new building. Let me give you an example that I remember is there was an idea that the culture would be much different. We were moving from a 3,500 square foot building where the shop and the offices were all together in one big area. There weren't that much separation, to a massive, I think it was 18,000 square foot building where there was like a 10,000 square foot shop, and there was upstairs and downstairs, and there was another shop. It was just way different. And the idea was, hey, listen, we're going to lose our culture. Things are going to change. We're not bumping into the same people in the hallway all the time. Now we're having to go to different places. And that led to the fact that we really had to be cognizant about spending time on a regular basis, doing barbecues, doing events. We actually organized the break room in a way that made it sort of central so that people would cultivate and come to the middle from all aspects of the building, whether it was the machine shop or the engineers upstairs. They would all have to come together in this area. And that came from that free flow thinking. And there was other things on that list that were, we'll say, more practical about how we laid things out. But that came from the idea of taking that concept to your team. And it's hard in today's age, especially with so much social media, that people have a tendency to think that things like this are very much a flash in the pan. And they come and go, these concepts, but they don't. This concept that I'm referencing is a Stoic concept. And I mentioned some Marcus Aurelius and the idea of a Seneca. Here's a great quote by Marcus Aurelius. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Brilliant. What that means is if you are in a constant frenzy and you have no stillness in your life, your soul is painted with those colors. But if you're calm, collected, if you cultivate your freeform thinking, if you practice mindfulness, if you come to your team and take these ideas to them as well, then you cultivate calm and you cultivate that color in your soul. You've all met people that, on both sides actually, some people that you meet, your energy or their energy towards you or whatever, however you want to describe it, just creates a lot of frenzy in your body. Like they make you uncomfortable. And they make you, whether it's the way they're talking, the way they're dressed, the way their mannerisms, whatever it is, they make you uncomfortable. And then there's other people that you meet with and they just calm you down. They calm you down. That concept that I'm describing to you is that cultivation from inside, the stillness. So I invite you to look at these things, spend time on the first 2 episodes if you haven't listened to them yet. Put this all together in the Stillness Series. In the next couple, actually the last one is about practical tools for reconnection, and we're going to sum up some of the general concepts here, and we're excited to share these thoughts with you very soon. Thank you.